Awesome. Hi, this is Michael Waitze and welcome back to Thailand GameChanger. We are focused on the driving forces behind the startup ecosystem in Thailand and Southeast Asia, produced by True Digital Park in conjunction with Michael Waitze Media. I am joined today by Aukrit Unahalekhaka, co-founder of and the CEO of Thailand for Ricult. Aukrit, how are you doing today?
Doing good. How are you?
I am super. We've been talking about this for a while.
Yeah.
I'm glad you finally came in and did it. Can you give our listeners a little bit of your background and some of your experiences for context?
Yeah, sure. Happy to. So first of all, thanks for having me. It's a great honor to be here. So I'm the co-founder and CEO of a big data company called Ricult. So basically what Ricult does is that we use big data to transform how farming is done in developing countries. So we are already operational in Thailand and Pakistan. So we use big data to analyze satellite data, weather data, soil data, various type of data to generate insights into this agriculture, into farming. And then we make an app for the farmers to download it for free. And we make money. Our business model is pretty much crunching this data and sell it to banks, to insurance company, to agricultural buyers, to supermarkets, so that they can have insight into the agricultural value chain.
Wow.
So pretty much in a nutshell, that's what I do.
There's a lot there. Let's back up a little bit. Like, where are you from originally? Where did you go to school? What did you study in school? And then I want to understand like how you got into here.
Yeah. So born and raised in Thailand. So I was So my parents are Thai. I've been in Thailand throughout my childhood. Went to high school, to an international school in Bangkok.
Where'd you go?
So I went to Rumrudi International School,
International
RIS.
School.
Yeah, pretty much. So I spent all my childhood at RIS, and then I got sent off like most of the international school kids to the US for college.
Sent off. I like the way you say that.
Yeah, at that time I wanted to stay in Thailand, but my parents wanted to
Really?
send me off to the US. Yes.
Got it.
So it was interesting experience. So I was in the US since I was 17 for college. Went to University of Illinois, Urbana-Champaign, doing computer science. So I studied computer science for undergrad. And then I went off to work at Cisco in the Silicon Valley as a software engineer. So at that time, it was when computer science tech scene was starting to get booming in Silicon Valley. So it was pretty awesome. So I saw Tesla in a garage. I saw Mark Zuckerberg and Facebook in a very small, tiny office in Palo Alto. Yes.
Did you really?
Yeah. So at that time, it was 2010.
So this is interesting. So you said your parents kind of forced you or sent you off to the United States.
Yeah.
You went to Urbana,
Yeah.
right? Which isn't that where, oh God, his name escapes me now. That's where Mark Andreessen went, right?
Yes. Mark Andreessen, Netscape,
Netscape,
Yelp, YouTube, all
that
came
stuff,
from.
right?
Yep.
Yeah, it's funny because Urbana has this insanely great reputation, even in Silicon Valley, right? But not so well known to the other places where you went to school. Where did the other places you went?
So I undergrad at Urbana-Champaign, and then I got my first master at Cornell.
Right.
And then I got my second master at MIT.
Because one wasn't good enough.
Yeah, I think I found what I actually like and enjoy when I got older.
What was it like living in Boston?
It was awesome. So I actually enjoy Boston the most.
Yeah, Boston's a pretty amazing city.
Amazing city, very college town, a lot
Yeah.
of students, a lot of things to do.
How would you summarize your experience in Silicon Valley? Like, what did you take home from there? Because at some point you left, right?
Yeah.
Came back here.
So actually my story was that I was in Silicon Valley for about a year at Cisco, and I actually didn't enjoy coding in the tech scene.
Really?
Yeah.
That's interesting. But you didn't know that before you started, right? It's one of those things where you get into it, you start doing it, and then you're like, I don't think I love doing this anymore.
Yeah, so I think the interesting thing was that the reason I studied computer science was because my dad told me to study computer science. I didn't even know what it was to do programming, to do software engineering, to do coding.
I love it.
I was actually good in math and science when I was in high school. So my parents was like, oh, you should do computer science for undergrad. So I was sent off to Illinois Urbana-Champaign to do computer science. And then I got a job as a software engineer in Silicon Valley.
So it's perfect. No complaints from dad at all.
No complaints. It was like a perfect career path for computer science students going to Silicon Valley. But I didn't actually enjoy coding at all, because I think I'm more like a social person, likes to meet people.
Right.
And software engineering job was like coding all day long in front of my laptop.
Yeah.
I didn't
Not a lot of
enjoy that.
interaction with other humans.
Not at all.
Right. So what was that phone call like when you said to your dad, thanks for everything, but I'm not going to do this anymore?
Yeah. So I made a career change, which I think it was good enough to tell my dad. So I actually went to do consulting in the US.
Right.
So I went to Boston to do consulting at Accenture. It was technology consulting.
That's awesome.
So rather than just coding in front of my laptop all day long, building software, I was actually doing consulting, doing digital transformation even before it was cool for large companies, like for Fortune 500 companies, like the top supermarket chain, top telecommunication company in the US. So I did that for another 3 years.
Okay.
So I think that was where I got the skill of having the technical knowledge and the business background as well. And then in my last year at Accenture, I switched to do management consulting. So it was purely strategy and finance. So I got a whole range of experience working in the US.
Which actually leads you into a great position as a CEO, because now you understand the computer science part of it, the coding part of it, the management side of it.
Yep.
Right? And also the human side of it.
Yeah.
That's awesome. I wanted to ask a little bit about the Obama Foundation, just because it's interesting to me personally. What is it, and what do you do for it? What does it give you? What do you give it?
Yeah. So I think it was a pretty cool experience. So definitely would highly recommend every one of you to go apply. So as long as you are under 40. So basically what Obama and Michelle Obama actually wanted to do is that they created this Obama Foundation after he stepped down from being the president. He wants to spread, to help support the social innovators, people who try to change their countries.
Right.
So he has this program where he select around 5 to 10 people from each countries from in Africa and in Asia to join his foundation. It is like a 1 year immersive program where you get to meet Barack Obama, you get to meet Michelle Obama, and you get to meet all his team.
That's
and
cool.
spend time with them. And they actually inspire you and teach you how to be a great leader, how to do public speaking, how to actually do good and do well in this world.
Right.
Basically. Yeah.
Sounds really important. Maybe I'm just a little bit too old to go and do it, but I wish I could have done it when I was under 40. I want to talk now about Ricult a little bit more. First of all, do you want to tell people where the name comes from? I get it, but maybe some people can't figure it out by just hearing it.
Yeah, sure. So basically, Ricult is the middle word from agriculture.
Right.
So basically, we want to use technology and data to transform the agricultural value chain. So we decided to cut off the starting and the ending and leave only the Ricult in the middles to be it.
And where does your interest in farming come from? It doesn't seem like your family owns a bunch of farms. Obviously, your dad put you out into computer science and technology and math. But where does the farming interest come from?
Yeah, so the funny thing is that my dad actually owns a farm.
Does he?
Yeah.
See, I'm wrong, as usual. Go ahead.
Yeah, but the interesting thing is that they actually own a real estate company in Thailand.
Okay.
So as a real estate developers, they buy a bunch of land in like the rural part of Thailand. So they are not developers in Bangkok, but they buy a whole bunch of land outside of Bangkok, like Chachoengsao, Prachinburi, and
really?
other suburbs. And they actually develop into projects. But actually, my dad loves farming. So he told me that if in his spare time, I usually see him walking around in the garden, cutting off tree, growing his own durian trees. And his passion is just having like durian farms. So we have like hundreds of rice of durian farms, of sugarcane farm, and so on and so forth. So I actually experienced all this farming and going out to rural areas since I was young.
Okay, that's awesome though, right? So you've been involved in this at some level forever.
Yes.
And now you get to combine those two things together.
Yes. So in order to diversify my family business, they actually opened like a rubber plantation as well.
In Thailand?
In Thailand, yes. So I was involved in like all this agricultural industry since I was young.
Okay.
But more from the perspective of like a large landowners and more like a capitalistic point of view.
Right.
But the good thing of this is that unlike all my friends who go to international schools whose parents own like a huge conglomerate, I'm very used to going out to rural areas to with my dad and got to experience with all these children of the farmers that live around my own land. And I realized that all these farmers' children are not as fortunate as myself. They had the privilege to go to international school, got the privilege to go abroad for good education. Most of these farmer children don't even complete 12th grade of education because their family might not have the money to send them off, or some of their family need them to come and work for in the family.
Yeah, I mean, look, farming is just fundamentally hard.
Yes.
Right? It's fundamentally difficult. And if you talk about, largeholder farms, but let's focus a little bit on the smallholder farms, right? And let's also point out a little bit about this. Farming, according to the United Nations, is about 8.3, 8.4% of the Thai economy. But what's interesting is about 33% of people in Thailand still are somehow involved in the agricultural economy. and 47% of people actually live in rural areas. So all the things you were just talking about, right? And fundamentally, this is hard. What is it that Ricult is trying to do specifically using technology, using big data, right? Using the analysis tools? What kind of tools are you giving these smallholder farmers so that they can earn more money? I think one of the things you said is that it helps them earn sometimes 50% more than they were earning before. Yeah?
Yeah. So actually, with all my experience, right? So as I told you earlier, that I saw Facebook and Tesla since it was very small.
Right.
So it was actually my inspiration to bring technology to help change Thailand. And I realized that almost 40 to 50% of the Thai population are actually in the farming sectors.
Yeah.
At first, I thought farming is easy, but when I went off to
It
do
looks
my
easy
own
from
farming,
far away, but yeah, once you start to do it,
extremely hard.
really hard.
Yeah, it's even harder than doing at normal jobs.
Yeah, way harder.
Yeah. Yeah, so to give a bit of a context for those of you who never done farming or walking into a rice farm, rice paddy, or like sugarcane farm before.
Right.
Right. So it is not only tiring, but it's very physically exhausting. You have to stay in the sun, super hot.
Sure.
All the crazy part is that most of the poor people in Thailand are in the farming sectors, but unlike you guys or most of us who make monthly salary, they only make money once a year
Right.
or 2 times a year when they harvest their crops.
Right.
And farming is extremely risky from weather. Weather is something that you cannot control.
Right.
It is at the mercy of God. So some year you face drought, some year you face flooding. So basically you cannot just do farming like what you do every year. Basically, you have to improvise and change every year, right?
Right. You can't just keep repeating the same
Yeah.
process over and over again. Go ahead.
Imagine a job where you have to improvise every year. You have to come up with new techniques to adjust according to the weather.
Right. Look, I sat behind a desk at Morgan Stanley and Goldman Sachs for 20-something years, and I thought that was hard.
Yep.
That's not hard. That's not hard. And the other thing is, farmers can't take a day off.
Yeah, they can.
Definitely not during planting season, definitely not during harvest season. They can't go like, you know what, I'm just going to come home a day late from vacation. Can't do it, right?
Yep.
Cannot do it.
Yep.
So talk a little bit about the tools that you're building as well.
Yeah, so the crazy part is that farming is almost like trading, where all your decisions have a huge impact on your revenue.
It does.
Yeah.
Very much so, right?
Like the day you choose to sow your seed, the day you decide to put your fertilizer, the way you decide to harvest.
Right.
Every decision have a huge impact on the outcome and revenue. A wrong decision can mean that you might not have anything. Income, not anything of the year.
Right?
Yeah.
Yeah, and that's really tricky. You mentioned risk, and I don't think when most people think about farming, particularly smallholder farming, they're thinking about just how fundamentally risky it is, right?
Right. So the crazy thing is that, let's say you grow rice, right? You decide to plant your rice, and suddenly there's no rain this year for your farm.
Right.
That means that you have zero income for the year to feed your family.
Right.
And in order to plant, you have to take loans from the banks, from the loan shark, whatsoever. So basically, you have zero income and you have debt that you have to repay.
Right.
So that's a situation that farmers are in. And I think this is a perfect example of how technology and innovation can help reduce this risk and helps farmers make better and more informed decisions.
Well, sure. If they can get satellite pictures, if they can get if they can get water data, if they can get weather information beforehand, and it helps, and they can do analysis on it. They can look historically, right? It's like back testing and trading,
Yes.
and see what the weather, predict what the weather's going to be like. They're much less likely to succumb to the risks that could actually give them zero income.
Yes, that's true. That's exactly what we do. So basically, I saw that even commodity traders, they have weather data, they have satellite data to predict
Couldn't do it
the
without
price
it.
of oil, predict the price of various things.
Soybeans.
Yeah, soybeans and so on and so forth. How come these farmers don't have these tools?
Sorry. Yeah. It's
Yes.
really true, right? You have teams distributed all over the world, right?
Right.
So what does that mean? Where, like, some of the founders are in the United States, there's some in Pakistan, some in Israel. Like, how does that work, and what is it like working on a distributed team?
Yeah, so basically, Ricult started off when I was doing my business school at MIT.
Right.
So actually, I did joint program in engineering and management at MIT. So when I was at MIT, actually the essay that I wrote to get into MIT was that I wanted to bring innovation from MIT back to Thailand to improve the farming sectors.
Did you really?
Yes,
Okay, so
I
this is not just some random thing that you're doing at any level.
Yeah,
No,
so actually something I planned.
Always been thinking about.
I was
Go ahead.
like my passion to bring innovation and bring technology to help improve Thailand. So actually that was my essay to get into MIT. So when I first took this class, an entrepreneurship class at MIT, which MIT is probably one of the best places in the world to do entrepreneurship and startups. So when I went into this class, I pitched to the 100 other students that I wanted to bring innovation. I'm not sure what technology I want to bring back, but I want to bring some technology and do a business that involves using technology to help improve the life of the farmers. When I pitched that into this class, there was this another student that walked right over to me from Pakistan.
From Pakistan, of course. Right and said, let's do this.
Which I never been to Pakistan,
Neither
never
have I.
got any close to Pakistan before. I said, I had the exact same idea that you wanted to do and have the same passion. Why don't we combine and join force and open Ricult? Open a startup. They say that if we can, because we started to realize that the problem of the farmers, problem of the agricultural sectors is very, very similar across the developing countries.
Yeah, has to
Thailand, Vietnam, Indonesia, Pakistan, India, all the same. So me and my co-founder, we realized that if we can make a solution work in both countries, that means that we are solving a global problem that we can scale across the borders.
And what do you get? You said you have some team in Israel as well. What do you get from them?
Yeah, so what happened was that the Pakistani co-founder also was doing his MBA at MIT.
Right.
So basically 2 business people joined the force. So we realized that we needed a CTO, some hardcore tech person. So what we did was that we went to the MIT computer science mailing list. So MIT is probably like number 1 in the world in computer science, right? So we thought that if we want a tech CTO, we should get it from MIT.
Why not?
So we just walked to the computer science department at MIT and told them, can you blast an email to every student at MIT that here's our idea? Would anyone want to join the journey and join a roller coaster ride? And actually one student replied.
One.
And he became our CTO
Really?
from that day on. So he's from Israel.
He's Israeli.
Yes.
That's awesome. So how long have you been building and developing this company?
So around 3 years now.
Did you say 3?
Yeah, 3.
3. Okay. And like, what have you learned along the way, and what have been some of the challenges specifically about building it in Thailand?
Yeah, so I think Ricult is a bit unique in the sense that we are not just business focused, using technology to help you find dates or find food delivery.
Right.
Our core mission is to generate social impact as well. We see ourselves as a triple bottom line company: social, environment, and financial impact.
I like it.
So not only it is hard to do business, but we realize that we should generate positive impact back to the social as well, and also the environment. So a triple bottom line company. So it has been an extremely difficult experience. Yeah, which I didn't realize that it would be this difficult, but it was extremely fulfilling.
Yeah.
Because if you look back at the people who go to top business school in the US, right, their career path would basically go into like Goldman Sachs, JP Morgan, McKinsey, BCG, Bain, consulting or banking.
Right.
Which they would have, I mean, right now they are making like 10 times more money than what I'm making at Ricult, basically. but I realized that when I'm doing my own startup, it's extremely fulfilling. I wake up every day and wanted to go to work.
Right.
But I started to have friends at Goldman Sachs who started to get bored and wanted to do something else now.
Right.
So I realized I'm doing something that I'm actually passionate about, which is extremely happy.
So I told you earlier that I worked at Morgan Stanley and Goldman Sachs for 20-something years, and it was not fulfilling. We made a lot of money for sure, but it was not fulfilling at all, and it destroys the soul.
Yes, exactly.
It's hard to explain. And this triple bottom line you talk about, right? Having social impact, having financial impact. What was the third one you said?
Social, environmental,
and financial impact, right?
Yes.
That's having real impact. Measurable, seeable, touchable, feelable, tangible impact, right?
Yep.
And that's got to be worth getting up for every single day.
Absolutely.
What are some of the challenges you faced when you go to a farmer for the first time and say, you know, essentially, I want to change your life by giving you access to better data and more technology? Like, what is that cycle like?
I think like any startup, you have to do a lot of customer research. You have to be extremely close to the customers. You have to understand the pain point. So what I did was that I did like interviews with 200 farmers in Thailand.
200 farmers.
Around 200.
That's awesome.
So
Yeah.
I stay with them, walk in their shoes, and try to understand the problems and pain points.
Yep.
Once they realized that I'm not just like a random students from Bangkok. They just come over for quick photos with them.
Yeah.
They realized I actually spend time with them. It actually created trust. That I told them that I wanted to use technology to bring into their life.
Right. It's okay. Don't worry about it. It happens to me all the time.
Yep. Sorry, I'm just.
No, it's okay. Have some water.
Yeah. So basically, I went to stay with them and realized that they needed help.
Right.
And a lot of them actually started use technology.
Yeah, for sure.
They actually have smartphone. So the funny thing is that in the past 2 to 3 years, the smartphone penetration has penetrated so fast that it actually transformed the social interaction in the rural areas. So basically, with the cheap smartphone from China,
Right.
you can get a cheap smartphone for like 2,000 baht. You can get a SIM with internet for like a couple of hundred bahts per
Yep.
month.
Yep.
So basically, almost 50% of the Thai rural population have access to smartphone now.
Right.
You can walk to a grandma in the farm and ask them like, "Oh, what phone do you have?" They will probably show you like a Chinese smartphone.
An Oppo or who knows
Oppo,
what it is.
Huawei, basically. And I asked them like, "Do you have internet on your phone?" They said, "What's internet?"
Yeah, no, they have no. I love this, right?
But
They
I
say
use
no.
Facebook.
Right, but I use Facebook.
I use Facebook to talk with my grandson in the cities. I use Line to gossip about my neighbors.
Right.
So basically, the way people interact totally changed in the past few years.
Yeah.
And I realized that this created opportunities that you can actually transform life with technology, with internet, with digital platforms.
Absolutely.
So once they're used to using Facebook and Line, having Ricult app isn't so foreign to them.
Right.
So they actually know how to use it right away.
It's really interesting, right? We did these surveys 5 or 6 years ago. We found the same results, and I don't think it's changed much in the rural areas, right? You do ask them, do you have a smartphone? Yes. Are you on Facebook? Yes. Do you use the internet? No. Right?
Yep.
Because they don't know that. And in a way, it doesn't really matter. But as long as they have access to the data, once they start doing that stuff, and like you said, getting used to it and getting comfortable to it, it's not a big leap of faith for them to go and just use Ricult because they know what the benefits are for having all that access, right?
Yep,
Yeah, and that's pretty awesome. Really awesome. So how about just being a startup founder here? I mean, you're in a way fortunate because you've got people in Pakistan, people in Israel, and people in the US as well.
Yep,
Is
yep,
that true?
some.
Right?
Yeah.
Have you been funded?
Yeah, so actually we are one of the top 10 most funded startup in Thailand,
Really?
and probably one of the top for social impact startup.
So where did the funding come from? And I don't mean who, but I mean, did it come from Thailand? Did it come from a corporate? Did it come, like, what kind of entity did it come from?
So all over. So since we have the social impact angles, when I first started off, I was fortunate to get grants from like the Gates Foundation. We were Millionaire Gates Foundation.
Right.
So, and from the UN, from a couple of startup competition that gave like free grants for us to start off.
Wow.
And I didn't put in a dime when I started off.
That's awesome. Can you talk about how much money you've raised? Is that okay?
Yeah, sure. So we raised around 2.5 million US dollar.
That's a lot of money. Yeah.
And we will probably have a good news coming up in a couple of weeks with a much larger round.
Really?
Yes.
And can you qualify what that round is? Is that a venture capital round?
Yeah, so 2.5 was a seed round.
Basically, it's a big seed round in Thailand.
Yes,
And
so
are you a Thai company? Are you a Singapore company?
So we are pretty much like what most of the Thai founders do. So we actually register the headquarters just a shell company in Delaware.
In Delaware.
C Corp.
Okay, so you're a C Corp in Delaware.
Yeah, but we do 100% own in Thailand.
A
through
BOI.
BOI.
Got it,
Yeah,
okay.
because it gives much more flexibility. So we are actually doing a convertible note round.
Okay, I understand the structure. You're doing a convertible note with a discount to your next round.
Yes,
So
basically.
an unpriced round into your next round.
Yes.
And you think that's going to be a big round?
Yes. So actually in the past, since we got started, we always did like a convertible note round with discount and cap because as a very early stage founders,
Yeah, you don't know what
you
you're
don't know what your valuation is.
No, you don't.
You either make it so big or so too small, basically.
Yeah, and there's no winning there, right? Because
Yes.
if the round is too big, then you have to live up to that round. And if the round is too small, you give away too much equity.
Yeah. So the easiest way is just to do a convertible note.
Right, and then just say 20% discount or whatever, some
Right.
kind of discount into my next priced round.
Yeah, but the problem is that as a Thai company, you cannot do a convertible note.
No, but as a Delaware company, you can.
You can. So you can. So most of the Thai founders either do a parents company in Singapore, or in the US, basically.
Right. So my company is a Singapore company. Most people do the Singapore. They used to do Hong Kong, but not so much anymore. And then have the BOI company in Thailand.
Yep.
Right. How big is the team globally?
So we have 25 now.
That's a lot.
Yeah, so pretty decent size for.
And how many in Thailand?
So we have 10 in Thailand.
Okay, so that's almost half the team is in Thailand.
Yeah, so we have half in Thailand, half in Pakistan, and tech team in Israel.
That's awesome. Oh no, all the people in the tech team in Israel Israelis.
Yes, pretty much.
This is a really interesting company.
So we realized a good, interesting things in having a remote team in Israel, because right now the tech engineers in Thailand are super expensive, and they're usually
In Thailand,
In
right?
Thailand.
There's no discount anymore.
Yeah, and all the top engineers are all bought out by all the top tech company or the large conglomerates in Thailand.
Right.
So as a startup, we don't have the money and we don't have the muscles to compete with all these top company for talents. So and the US engineers are way too expensive for us. So the Israelis are like in
In the middle.
the middles.
Really?
Pretty good, pretty not too expensive.
Yeah, the tech talent in Israel should be pretty good.
Yes.
Historically, at least, it's been really good, right?
Yeah, so I think I started to see a couple of friends who have tech company in India or in Eastern Europe.
Right.
Romania, Bulgaria as well.
Yep. So we like to ask people what's going to change the game in Thailand. You operate here. You understand some of the challenges. What do you think is going to change the game here? For
Change the
startups.
game in internal startup?
Yeah, in terms of startups. In other words, what's going to make it so that it's easier or more efficient to have a startup in Thailand?
Yeah, so I think right now the scene is lacking real heroes. Hero as in like a exit or IPOs.
Fair enough.
Because I realized that I think there would be multiple ripple effects from that. So first of all, if startups see a real heroes where a company exit, they might not even have to be a unicorn.
No.
If they exit for like $100 million US, even 30.
That's a lot of money,
yeah.
by the way.
Yeah.
$100 million is a lot
It's
of
a
money.
lot of money for Thailand. You
It's
don't
a
have
lot of
to
money for anywhere in the world.
Yes, exactly.
If you lived in Chicago
Yeah.
and I gave you $100 million, would you be happy?
Absolutely. I can stay in the US for like very good life.
Right?
Yeah. To be honest, even 10 million US dollars, that's like 300 million baht. It's a lot of money
It's
for
a
Thailand.
lot of money. I just want to make the point, right?
Yeah.
That this whole concept of we need to be a unicorn, I think, is a real misnomer. But anyway.
Absolutely, yeah.
ahead.
So I realized that just maybe like 20M, 30M,
Yeah.
30 million is like 1,000 million baht for in Thailand. That's a humongous
Huge.
of money already.
Right.
So once people see that, more people will want to join the startup scene.
Right.
And more talents would want to join the startup scene.
Create this virtuous circle, right?
Yes, because in Thailand when they give employee equities, right, a lot of them like don't actually realize the values of equity, unlike the employee in the US, because there have been so many success stories that employee became millionaires.
Right.
Like,
So if your friend started working at Google
yeah,
when there were 13 people there and now they have $100 million and you just took a job at some other company and you just took a salary for 20 years, you can see the difference.
yeah. So I actually had a lot of friends who were like the early employee of Uber, of like Google, of Facebook before the IPOs, and now they become like
Multi-millionaires, right?
Yeah, multi-billionaires. So they made even more money than those who work for like McKinsey or Goldman.
Sachs.
Yeah, pretty
Yeah.
much. And they had work for a tech company. So I think in Thailand, we are waiting for this health story, not just for the employee, but for the parents of the employees.
Absolutely. So can you talk about this a little bit? Because I think this is something that most people don't understand.
Yeah.
Your parents want you to get a job at Coca-Cola or something like this, right?
Right.
Yeah.
So when I finished off my master's at MIT, right, my parents asked me all the time, why don't you go to McKinsey or something, or BCG when you come back to Thailand? So I told them I wanted to do work for a startup. I wanted to launch my own company. And I told them that it is, right now it's more like a high risk, high return endeavors, where the upside is huge, but the downside, I told them it is not as bad as it may seem, because the experience that you actually get from working on a startup. Right now, if Ricult doesn't work off, I can become a top management at any company. And the experience I get from running a Ricult, you cannot buy from anywhere, or you cannot get from somewhere else.
It's such a great point, though, right? There is a lot of family pressure. People don't talk about it a lot, right? You go to MIT, you go to Cornell, get a great education, you go to Urbana, you come home and your parents say, just go work at BCG.
Yep.
It's kind of like if you get in and you're smart enough to do it, it's fixed almost forever. Not really, but more than at a startup. But the reality is that you can do the startup for 2 years. Your upside is almost unlimited, but your downside is completely limited, because your downside is just 3 years later going to McKinsey.
That's true. That's true.
Yeah.
Yep. Yeah, and I realized that when I tried to got top tier talents to join my company, a lot of the Thai culture is still highly
Risk averse.
risk adverse, and parents have a lot of say in their
They do, they
children
Well,
decision.
they do, right? Yeah, they paid for that education. They gave you some of those benefits, right?
Yep.
And it's fair, actually, from their perspective. They care. They want you to have a better life, right? Yes, that's fair. Okay. Well, look, that's been awesome. unless there's something else you want to talk about, I really just want to thank you for coming and doing this. Right, Aukrit, thank you so much for coming. Co-founder, CEO of Thailand of Ricult, excuse me. We got to have you back on in a few months to figure out like how this is going.
Yeah, absolutely. In a few months, I'm pretty sure Ricult will take off a bit
I
more
think so.
bigger round,
Yeah.
fundraising round. Absolutely.
Awesome. Thank you again.
Yes. Thanks for having me. Thank you.